The summer sun was sinking low, painting the small suburban neighborhood in streaks of orange and gold.
Wow.
Richard Hale turned into his driveway, his hands still rough from the day's work at the auto shop he ran downtown. For Richard, home was supposed to be the one place of peace, a quiet sanctuary where he and his wife Emily could breathe. But in their HOA-controlled community, peace was always fragile because of Karen Blake. The HOA president Karen wasn't just strict, she was ruthless. She treated the HOA rules as weapons, swinging them at anyone who dared to live outside her vision of perfection. Richard had fought her before over his work truck, his tool shed, even the flowers Emily planted. War Karen waged wasn't just about property lines or rule violations. It was personal, and Richard would soon discover just how far she was willing to go. That evening, as Richard pulled into his driveway, he noticed something odd. Emily was sitting on the front porch, pale, trembling, gripping her coffee mug with both hands like it was the only thing anchoring her. Rushed over. "Emily? What's wrong?" Her eyes darted nervously toward the street. "They came," she whispered. "Who?" Richard asked, his gut already tightening. "Bikers, 3 of them, leather jackets, chains. They stopped right here in front of the house. One of them he leaned close and said Karen sent them, said if we don't stop causing trouble, things will get ugly." Her voice cracked. "Richard, they scared me." Richard's fists clenched. Heat surged through his chest. "They threatened you?" Emily nodded, tears forming. "They said you'd better back down in the next HOA meeting, or else." Richard took a slow breath, his jaw tight. He had always tried to handle things calmly, but this was different. Threatening him was one thing. Threatening Emily? That crossed a line no man could ignore. "Don't worry," he said softly, brushing her cheek. "They'll never come near." You again, the next evening, Richard didn't go straight home. Instead, he drove out to a local biker bar he knew well, Iron Horse Tavern. Years ago, Richard had ridden with veterans motorcycle groups. He knew how the biker world worked. He knew one thing. Real bikers hated being used as pawns for HOA squabbles. Inside the dimly lit tavern, smoke hung in the air. Leather jackets lined the stools. And at a corner table, Richard spotted them the same 3 men Emily had described. They laughed loudly, pounding beers, clearly proud of their intimidation stunt. Richard walked straight over, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. One of them, a burly guy with tattoos crawling up his arms, sneered, Well, look who it is, the mechanic from Maple Lane. We need to talk. Outside. Now." The man laughed, glancing at his buddies. "You got guts, old man. Fine, let's talk." They stepped into the cool night air behind the tavern. Richard's voice was low, steady, dangerous. "You came to my house? You threatened my wife? That was your first mistake? Your second was telling her Karen sent you?" The leader smirked. "What are you going to do about it?" Richard leaned in close, his eyes hard as steel. "You've got 3 minutes to beg me for forgiveness. After that, you'll wish you'd never heard of me." The bikers chuckled, shaking their heads. But then Richard pulled out something they didn't expect. A badge. Not just any badge. Federal one. Richard Hale wasn't just a mechanic. He had served 25 years in federal law enforcement before retiring early to start his auto shop. He still had connections, deep ones. The bikers froze. "Yeah," Richard said quietly. "Now you understand who you messed with." He stepped closer. "You've got 2 choices. 1, you go back to Karen, tell her you failed, and disappear. 2, I make a single phone call, and by tomorrow, you'll be sitting in federal custody." Explaining why you're running intimidation rackets for a suburban HOA, the men's bravado crumbled. The smirks vanished. Panic flickered in their eyes. "Well, we didn't mean anything by it," one stammered. "It was just a job," she said. "You were giving her trouble, that's all." Richard's voice sharpened. "You terrorized my wife in her own home." "That's not nothing." They swallowed hard. The leader finally dropped to his knees, hands raised. "Please, man, don't bring the law down on us. We'll back off. We'll never bother you again." Richard checked his watch. 3 minutes. Right on time. The next HOA meeting was unlike any other. Neighbors gathered in the community hall, whispers filling the room. At the head table sat Karen, her smug smile plastered on her face. She tapped her papers like a queen about to deliver judgment. "Before we begin," she said loudly, "I'd like to remind everyone that disruptive behavior and threats against this association will not be tolerated. Some people seem to think they're above the rules," her voice faltered, because at that very moment, the doors swung open. The three bikers walked in, not strutting, not laughing. They looked pale, shaken, like men who had seen the edge of hell. They walked straight to Richard. To everyone's shock, the leader extended his hand. "Sir, we owe you an apology, to you and to your wife. We crossed a line." Gasps filled the room. Neighbors exchanged wide-eyed looks. Karen's face drained of color. Richard rose slowly, shaking the man's hand without a smile. "Apology accepted. But if you ever show your faces on my street again, we'll have a different kind of conversation." The men nodded quickly, backing out of the hall like chastened schoolboys. All eyes turned to Karen. Richard spoke, his voice carrying through the room. "These men admitted who hired them. Karen Blake. She sent them to intimidate my wife." Karen shot up, her face twisted in rage. "Lies you can't prove," but the leader turned, pointing directly at her. "It's true. She paid us," said one. She wanted him scared into dropping his fights with the HOA. The room erupted. Neighbors shouted, voices rising in outrage. Some stood, demanding Karen resign immediately. Karen's composure shattered. "You don't understand. It was ruining this neighborhood. I had to keep things in order." Richard stepped forward, his voice like a hammer. "You endangered my wife. You endangered this community. It's not order, Karen. That's tyranny." The fallout was swift. In a week, Karen was removed as HOA president. Legal action followed as the bikers testified against her to save their own skin. Karen's reign of control crumbled like sand in the wind. As for Richard and Emily, peace finally returned. Neighbors who once stayed silent began stopping by, thanking him for standing up. Emily, though shaken, found strength in knowing her husband had protected her fiercely. One evening, as they sat on their porch, Emily reached for Richard's hand. "I was so scared that night, but when I saw those men beg you for mercy, I knew they'd never hurt us again." Richard squeezed her hand gently. "No one threatens my family and walks away. Not bikers, not Karen, not anyone." The cicadas hummed in the trees, the neighborhood quiet at last. And Richard knew one truth above all. Sometimes standing tall wasn't just about protecting your rights, it was about protecting the people you loved most. Asterisk. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey.